Hello again, soul friends and soul family, and welcome back to another episode of Inspired Sovereignty Radio. So, hey friends, you've got another solo episode with just me today. I'm Ivy. You probably know me if you've been around this podcast for a little bit, but I welcome you back into this episode. And so, we haven't been doing a lot of solo episodes these days, but there's still ones that my heart has had planned for such a long time that need to exist. And, some of them are just better as a solo conversation that needs to move through my heart and my mouth, hopefully to help and support you in some ways. So, hey, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here, friend. So today, this episode, I've got to be somewhere shortly. So I'm intending to do a really succinct little story episode about my life, actually. Okay, so this episode, I'm going to be talking about how I personally have lived almost my entire life with chronic symptoms of being chronically, continuously injured by pharmaceuticals that I was repeatedly, number one, told were safe, and number two, told that I needed to be on, and that these were not what was causing the problem, of course, that it was some mystery thing. But all in all, I'm telling you the end of my story quickly, is that nearly all of the issues that I have experienced for nearly all of my life are because do I want to say ill-informed doctors? I don't even know I don't even know how I want to say it, but the system and how the system is designed to work is designed to harm people and injure people, and really not have them catch on to that which is happening. And that's a lot of my story. And it's finally time to share a bit more of this with you. And this has been something that I've rumbled with for a long time, because I feel like for my own healing, I need to share these things going forward. Like I need to get these things out so that they're finally just out of me. And at the same time, though, it's uncomfortable to talk about. I'm so tired of this situation. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of bitching about it. I'm tired of complaining about it consciously and also from a place of pain, And then also on the same hand, or on the other hand, or however that phrase goes, I know that me sharing is going to be of service to some people, because surely there's people in my same situation, but they don't even recognize it yet. And my goodness, I hope that's not your situation. But on the other, furthermore than that, is that there are so many people right now being injured by pharmaceuticals and by the jabby jab. So it's valuable, I feel, for me to share a bit of my story, because this stuff matters. This stuff matters because these systems and this death cult that we live in, with all of these you're going to hear some of my own personal opinions in this episode, okay? But these overreaching, unnecessary, imbalanced, unnatural, freaking crazy things that the system convinces us to do to ourselves is just so ass backwards and so far removed and opposite of natural law and universal law, and completely disregarding and not even understanding or understanding that the body, as I've said so many times, is an immaculate, multidimensional, self-healing machine, So all in all, everything is so freaking backwards in the society still. And I want to share a bit more of my story so that it helps to educate you on specifically what I went through. But what I went through can be, it's a kind of like a template of this understanding can be used on so many people that have been on medications that have actually been harmed by their pharmaceuticals and their problems exacerbated, and we never get to the root of the issue. Like what I went through, it mirrors what so many other people go through. And this is why I'm an excellent healer for other people. And I don't mean that I actually heal you, it's just I help you remember how to heal yourself. But because of what I've been through, it means that it's very, very easy for me to understand why other people are suffering in their own ways and how we go about healing it. So today I want to educate you a little bit. I want to help free myself of this dang story finally. And I also want to let you get to know me a little bit deeper, and so that you can see why I am the way I am in a lot of ways, because as I'm moving through this experience yet again with being injured by topical steroids, as I'm going through this situation again, I'm really looking back on my life even more. And as much as this has sucked, in all terms of the word sucked, from physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, sucked, at the same time, it has been so integral for me to be able to understand the things that I now understand, and to be able to support people and talk through things and mentor and coach and hold space for people, is because I've spent most of my life going through unnecessary fire, or maybe necessary, right? Who even knows what the path of soul is supposed to be on this very distorted, backwards death cult of a planet these days, you know? So, yeah, I'm approaching all of this with love and grace with you today. So I hope that there is goodness in this episode for you in some way. Yeah. So friends, welcome back. So this episode, of course, is also on our Inspired Sovereignty YouTube channel. If you want to hang out with me there, if not, just stick around in this audio podcast. Thank you, and we love you. And if this podcast has been really good for you, it really, really supports us reaching more ears and minds and hearts if you leave a 5-star review. Okay, if you leave a 5-star review on like the Apple Podcast homepage, and or even if you wish to give a little write-up, just also like if you don't think that this is like a 5-star podcast, you totally don't gotta listen to it, and don't worry about reviewing it, okay? Because we're really trying to help people. We're really desiring to hold space during these incredible days of transformation. Okay, so friends, this conversation today to me is important really because of the notion of informed consent. Okay, so earlier in the podcast, I think somewhere in like the episodes of the 30s or the 40s, I did a 3-part series on informed consent. Please go check those out if you haven't yet. And if you have, they're good to recheck out, because they're going to like trigger more things in you and really help solidify the full concepts of informed consent and how we actually embody these very necessary practices. Okay, it's because our world does not teach us about informed consent, and right now we're all consenting to so much stuff, and it is not informed consent. Okay, so yeah, I think that this is just a really important conversation, considering all of the stuff that's happening, and all of the pharmaceutical injuries that are happening, all of the freaking gaslighting and virtue signaling, and whatever happened to my body, my choice, right? Whatever happened to just, okay, if you want me to take this, tell me what is in it, tell me what are all the possible side effects, adverse effects, consequences, yada, yada, yada. You know, it's like, what just even happened to fully thinking things through? I don't know. Okay, friend, I'm not crying. Also, if you're watching me right now, I just took a sip of water and I shoved the water into my eyeball and all over my face somehow, but I'm on a time crunch, so the show must go on. So, okay, so friends, what I personally went through, I now know is called topical steroid withdrawal, or topical steroid addiction, or red skin syndrome. And so, right, I'm in my early 30s right now, and I can recall symptoms going back to young childhood, maybe around the ages of like 6 or 7, but then symptoms definitely getting way worse in my early teens and like my young adolescence. And so to just let you know that I'm technically healing through round 2 of topical steroid withdrawal in my body right now, and I did not actually know that this is what I've been experiencing until like 2.5 years ago, when I started going through this whole cycle for the second time. So first time that I was going through this topical steroid addiction and withdrawal cycles, it was like, so from childhood until I was 27, 28. So like we're talking probably 17 to 20 years in this freaking drug reaction, chronic, constant drug reaction, without knowing at all what it was. Okay, it's so insane. And then I completely healed through it, thinking that I had actually healed from lymphoma. It wasn't lymphoma, but I was told that it was probably lymphoma. And then, you know, this cycle starting again. Yeah, so let me take you to the very beginning of it, and let me do this as organized in my mind as possible. Okay, so Topical steroid withdrawal or topical steroid addiction, it's really like when we use steroids on the body. And so this can also happen through injection steroids. So like internal steroids, whether you're getting them injected or if you are taking them internally like prednisone. But especially this can happen and does happen to many, many people when we're putting topical steroids on our skin. So maybe we have eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea, things like that, where a dermatologist or a doctor just prescribes a cortisone or like a hydrocortisone cream or an ointment. You know, there's different types of steroids that you can apply to your skin in different forms, in different locations on your body. The steroids come in different strengths. You can also buy them over the counter for like $3.50. So it is such a crazy, crazy drug. And so what basically happens is that once you've been putting it on your skin for a certain amount of time, and it could only be a week, like this can happen to you if you've only been using it for a week, but what ends up happening is that your skin becomes addicted to these steroids very quickly, or it can happen slowly over time. It's really different for each person. And it also depends on what is the strength of steroid that you're using on your skin. Are you also using any of the steroids internally? And also where on your body are you using it? So if you've been using it anywhere on your face, around your eyes, or on your genitals, like where skin is thinner and more delicate, it can have much, much more drastic effects. And so basically what happens is that the skin becomes addicted to the steroids. And at the same time, the capillaries in the skin, so the really, really tiny blood vessels, also become addicted to the steroids. And also your nervous system does, all by putting this stuff on your skin. And so it's just such a crazy situation. And honestly, like let me be so honest with you. I am feeling exhausted right now, already just starting to talk about it. Like this conversation for me is just so heavy because it has permeated my life to a place of insanity in my body. So basically different layers of you become addicted to these steroids. And so the nervous system, it basically totally screws up your own cortisol and adrenaline production, wreaks havoc on your adrenal glands. And so it basically like forces you into like a long-term adrenal fatigue. And then with your capillaries, you basically like these steroid creams, they reduce the redness in your skin and they reduce swelling and itchiness by making your capillaries contract. So the skin is not so inflamed anymore and engulfed or like engorged in the blood vessels. So it looks like, okay, less swelling, less swollenness, less irritation, less inflammation, because it's getting all of those capillaries to just tighten up and restrict. And so what happens is that then when our skin isn't getting the steroids anymore, then the capillaries, they get lazy, they get loose, and they basically get leaky. They can't contract anymore. So all of your capillaries in your skin, they become loose and more permeable. So then you start leaking your blood plasma into your skin tissues because your capillaries are no longer able to like have the structural integrity to properly hold your blood and plasma and everything inside of them. Okay, so we've got like multi-leveled things that are happening with the topical steroids after a very short time of using them. And I've seen this happen to people of all ages, people of all colors, and like literally even infants. And so let me also just quickly say that detoxing off of this. Oh, I've got my door of this room open today, so we're gonna have Sam visiting us because sometimes animals are pretty needy. Okay, hi Sam, come on. Yeah, hi Sam. Say hi to everybody. Okay, so this can happen to anybody, all ages, and to heal out of this, it always takes at least a year, but typically closer to like 2 to 4 to 6 years to get out of it, which is so crazy because generally it's like if you have an adverse reaction to a drug, it might be detoxing out of your system for a week or two. Like even heroin. I think heroin takes only about 14 days to get out of your system. But if your body became addicted to steroids, you are in it for years. So right now I am still affected by this on the daily. It's been over 2.5 years since I last used steroids, and I'm still working my way out of it. So it is such a long, disastrous process. And if you are going to be watching this on YouTube, I'll make sure that I've got clips up of like the photos that I do have of myself as I went through this, and when I was really, really healing hard from it the first time, like when I thought that I had cancer. it was like in 2013, well, really like 2009 to 2014. And so, you know, we weren't all taking selfies at that time. And as like a chronically ill person, there wasn't any way that I was going to be taking more photos than necessary just to document, you know? So, and again, like I thought that I was dying. And so I wasn't going to take a lot of photos. So I don't have a lot of photos. And part of me is happy about that. Part of me is not happy about that. But it is what it is. You can always just even go on Instagram and like hashtag topical steroid withdrawal, or like TSW is what we shorten it to, or red skin syndrome. And those hashtags are going to show you the most horrific things that people go through and that I have personally gone through as well. So, yeah. Okay. So, like I was saying, the nervous system becomes addicted to the steroids. The capillaries and the blood vessels in the skin become addicted to the steroids, and then also the skin itself basically stops functioning. So the skin becomes really, really thin, and that means that the structure is depleting inside of it. The collagen depletes. You lose most of the fat in your skin. So if you've ever noticed, like I'm really, really lean. And even like my face is lean, like almost like I feel like I look kind of gaunt. And it's like, because I just don't have fat in my face skin anymore. I don't have that subdermal fat like I used to because of going through the topical steroid withdrawal. So what I have is technically, they call it a topical steroid addicted facey, like FACIE. I don't know why it's called a facey and not just a face, but it's cute. But yeah, your skin ends up tearing very easily. It has no integrity. It starts swelling up. So your skin kind of goes into these cycles where it starts to swell, but it swells from underneath the skin because the capillaries are leaking. And so your skin starts feeling like super creepy, like it's crawling, and this will be like all over your body. And especially where you have more blood vessels, or blood vessels that are closer to the surface. So there's kind of patterns that often happen like on our faces and on our neck and on our collarbones and shoulders and arms. And like when you look at me, it's like I probably look pretty normal because I try to hide it well and only show myself on camera when it's like not so bad. But I'm on my period cycle right now, and it seems that every time I'm on my period, everything just gets more inflamed. But luckily, like as long as I keep my diet good, and God forbid, like I have to stay out of the sun. This is my third summer in a row, completely out of the sun, and I cannot stand that. But as long as I do the good things for my body, it seems like each time it flares a little bit less, and a little bit less, and a little bit less, so that I know I'm on the journey of healing. But yeah, it's such a crazy thing. So the skin starts swelling because of the capillaries are leaking. You're leaking plasma into your skin, and then the skin just gets super like weird swollen. Like we call it elephant skin because it gets really thick and like big wrinkles, like creepy big wrinkles, like on your legs and on your arms. And then that extra plasma that's saturating the skin and engorging the skin, like your skin basically starts coming apart. Like it will just tear, or it'll just like rub off, and then it just weeps. It just all of the plasma out of the skin. Then for a couple days, you weep and you weep and you weep. And this will be like all over your whole body. And so I thought that I was actually becoming a zombie. I don't mean I was actually becoming a zombie, but I thought that like my skin was liquefying. And I'll get into that in a moment. But it's such an insane experience because you're in this place for months and months and months and months on end. So you wrap your body with gauze and everything, and oh my God, all that you can smell is your own plasma. And it's not a bad smell, but it is not a good smell. Like it smells so creepy. Okay. And so your skin swells, and then the plasma starts leaking out of your skin. So you're oozing and you're oozing and you're oozing, and then it starts drying up and gets all crispy, and then it starts shedding. Like they call it excessive exfoliation. So then your skin just sheds and sheds and sheds. It just peels off and sheds off, and it's kind of like a snowstorm wherever you go. You got to like vacuum every day or sweep up after yourself all the time, and you just shed and shed and shed until you start swelling again. And because your capillaries get all leaky again, and then your skin swells again, and then it starts oozing out again. And then after a couple days, that dries up and crisps up, and then it all sheds off. And then your skin starts swelling again and oozing again. And it's just this cycle. And everybody's cycle is a little bit different, but this is how mine really went. And so It's just this constant insane cycle of, and it makes like you feel so foreign in your own body and truly feel like such a prisoner. So like my whole body was just weeping and swelling. Like we're talking my scalp, my eyelids, my whole face, my whole neck, my whole back, my breasts, my like all of my skin, my whole body, everything just weeping and swelling and oozing and and I'm so like I feel bad to even tell you about this. I feel bad to even share it. But then I see all of these people that are being affected by the jab, and I see that a lot of them are having crazy skin situations, and like my heart feels like it breaks to see other people in these situations that they were told wouldn't happen. You know, all that I was ever told was that just like my skin might become a little bit thinner later in life if I use steroids a lot. You know, nothing of these sorts was ever told to me. And so meanwhile, it's like I'm living and I'm going to doctors all the time. I'm going to all different types of doctors all the time. I'm going to dermatologists. I'm trying different drugs, different pharmaceuticals, because I grew up very much like in the system, you know. I should also share with you that I grew up as a constipated child. Like right from birth, I was told that I was pooping about once a week, and that was until I was about 20, 21. So I was chronically constipated, which means that I always had earaches, which also, earaches are a sign of parasites in the body, guys. So, and also everything that I went through also screamed parasites and just chronic acidosis in the body, and being really constipated leads to all types of problems, especially skin problems, especially immune system problems. So I was one of those kids that was just chronically sick, chronically on antibiotics all the time with something, you know. And when I was in my later teenage years, I remember in a span of 2 years, I think it was 22 bladder infections that I had that I was on antibiotics for every single time. You know, I was on antibiotics so much as a child, topical steroids all the time as a child. I remember by the time I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, I was on low-grade antibiotics constantly for bad skin, but it's like my gut was screwed up and I was constipated, so of course my skin was bad, you know. And then they put me on Accutane for my skin, and so then and I was on Accutane twice, double strength, as a child. And because I was on Accutane, which has crazy birth defects, even though I wasn't sexually active, they put me on birth control at the same time, you know. So as a very young person, they put me on so much crap, that was so toxic to my body and my liver and my skin. And then by the time I'm like 18 or 19, they also have me double dose of Effexor XR, so an antidepressant, because it's like no wonder I wasn't feeling well, you know. So my growing up, like I was so heavily in the medical system. So, you know, you guys know that it's like I'm a health practitioner. I'm of many trades. I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to healing people. But why am I like this? Because I grew up so deeply in the system. I was at the doctor's all the time. You know, I was such a good customer. I was such a good customer for the pharmaceutical companies and the doctors. And I, you know, like I did everything that they said. And I got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And so like another issue with topical steroids is that, so they cause a whole bunch more issues than the skin stuff that I'm talking to you about. They can cause glaucoma in your eyes. I had these crazy for years, like these really thick, gooey, itchy things that would come out of my eyes. That the optometrist couldn't figure out, you know, and said, well, it's probably always going to be like that. And of course it isn't. It's just, it's side effects, you know. Yeah, I would have staph infections like all over my skin. So, you know, like pussy bumps everywhere, skin just weeping, like my scalp would just weep. I remember my breasts would weep, and like my sports bras would get like stuck to my skin. Oh, and I tried everything, like all the blood tests, all the practitioners, holistic practitioners, all the different medical practitioners. I I even went and got like the mercury amalgam out of my teeth. Like I tried everything possible for so many years to heal my situation. And of course, like never would I have thought that it's the topical steroids, because even when chunks of time go with not being on the topical steroids, like healing it takes well over a year or 2 or 3. So of course I was never off of them for that long to see it through, because who would ever think that that type of time frame would ever be necessary, you know? Yeah. So when you're on the topical steroids, like I said, they affect so many different parts of your bodily systems and so many different types of side effects from it. So one other side effect that I experienced a lot of was swollen lymph nodes. And also, before I talk to you about swollen lymph nodes, about like your skin being so severely harmed and degraded on like your whole body, and it is constant. Like you cannot get out of it, and you do not see any type of improvement for months on end. Like normally, it's like you're in it for about a year before you actually see much improvement at all. So that means like you're not getting an hour break from being in your body. You know, it's just absolutely constant and chronic, and you basically like it, you look like you are covered in chemical burns. And yeah, it's just a very, very bizarre situation that there's no getting comfortable, there's no reprieve. And yeah, and another odd thing about it is that because your skin is what regulates your body's hydration level to some degree, but also especially like your skin, it's your first line of your immune system, but your skin also is what regulates your body temperature. So when your skin is going through this, like temperatures are crazy. Like you are freezing cold, and then like as soon as there's anything on you, you are so hot. You are like cooking. So it's also a very bizarre thing to like even just navigate being a human, navigating being around people and looking like you're dying and not having any answers, you know. And you go to the doctor and they every time they're prescribing you more chemicals and more steroids. Like I went to a really special dermatologist in Canmore, Alberta. Like it took me months to get into this guy, and he told me that if these pills and creams don't work, then we're just going to have to be on shots, like injections. And I'm going to be on these injections for the rest of my life. That's what he told me. He's like, your immune system is basically just screwed. So this is just what we're going to have to do, you know? And I was like, what? Like this can't be my life sentence. How can this be my life sentence? You know, it's just such a bizarre, and it's such a long experience that has been so isolating and so alienating and so, I've never had desperation like this. You know, like it's really, you talk to anybody that goes through this, and because it's absolutely relentless for, you know, again, like I said, a solid year before you have a day that's a slightly better day, you know, that it's, you really walk yourself to the edge a lot of times. Yeah, you really, really do. And so, like I said, you also get swollen lymph nodes with this, and really, really swollen. So my lymph nodes, I remember when I was 19, I had 3 of them on my neck, and one of them was like a big marble, and then another 2 were like golf balls, but a bit smaller than golf balls. And I remember getting a biopsy on them, so where they stick in the big needle and they suck out the cells, because they were concerned when I was 19 that I might have lymphoma. It's like, oh my God, right? And then no, not lymphoma. And then I stay in my 20s with these just chronic hives. Although now I've got off the birth control, I've got off all pharmaceuticals, I've got a water distiller, you know, I'm doing all of the healthy things as I'm learning. I'm being trained in a bunch of different practitioner or different types of modalities, and I'm going to my naturopaths, and I'm doing applied kinesiology, and I'm doing all of the things, you know, but the health never gets better. The skin never gets better, I mean. Because again, right, it was such a chronically deep condition and harm from the topical steroids. And also, I just want to put out there that like it's over 400,000 people every year in America alone die in the medical system. But that's not even dying from medical mistakes. That's people dying from when they still just did everything properly, you know, and medications given as prescribed and everything. And still that's like almost 500,000 people every year dead, you know, like that's insane. And so moving this story along and forward, when I was about 27 again, it's like my skin was so bad this whole time through. Like I was just that person that was chronically covered in hives, that person that was chronically shedding skin, that person that just always looked so uncomfortable, that person that was always so uncomfortable. And like I really feel like the situation, it was really emotionally hard, it was really socially hard, it was as being an introvert, like you get really, really, really introverted when you look and feel so unwell all the time without answers. Okay, so when I'm like 27 and going to more doctors, and just not finding any answers, and it finally got to the point. Oh, sorry, I didn't explain my lymph nodes here. With my lymph nodes, like in my armpits and in my groins, by the time I'm about 27, 28, 26, 27, 28, they are so big. They're so big that like when I lift my arm, and they're still like a little bit big, like I really want to still do things still to continuously like heal them and detox them. But my lymph nodes in my armpits would be so big that when I lift up my arm, it would look like a huge bulge. Like when I'd shave my armpits, I'd have to be like so gentle not to like cut it. It was like my armpits had Adam apples. And then in my groin, they were so big. They were so big and kind of irregular shaped. And they like, I had them measured and everything. And some of them were like 3 centimeters by about 1.5 centimeters. And I could feel a whole bunch, like, on either inside of my groin. And still, like, they're still there, but they're smaller now. But I still think that they're bigger than they should be. But basically what ended up happening was that they didn't think that a needle biopsy would be enough this time, and they were really concerned that I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so I was scheduled to go to somewhere in British Columbia and get the lymph nodes in my groin removed. They were going to remove a couple of them so that they could like section them and biopsy them and really see like what the structure of them is, because you can't just see that with like a fine needle aspiration type of biopsy. So they were actually going to remove them. So I had surgery scheduled, and I was like really, really hesitant, right? And I start looking into what might happen, because I'm already a holistic practitioner at this point. I'm already a colon hydrotherapist. This is like in 2014. And oh my God. And I remember like when I was living in a small town in British Columbia, and I remember people would stop me and like the cashier at the grocery store, and she would be like, "Hun, do you need to go to the hospital?" It's like, yeah, I know. I know what I look like. I mean, there were so many hospital trips. But yeah, so I had this surgery scheduled, and I was very, very uncomfortable about it. And I started learning that if the surgery isn't done properly, it's like you can have a lot of problems. And one of the problems that you can have is that the lymphatic fluid could potentially start just draining into your leg. And that could cause me to have a club leg, like a club leg as in one of my legs is like really big and really thick for forevermore, like in a really strange, not okay way. And as soon as I read that, it was like, fuck, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm not trusting people at this point, because everybody keeps telling me that I need more medications. Now I need their surgery. Now they think that I have cancer, and not at any point is anybody telling me to do anything healthy. I remember one doctor told me to put bleach in my bathtub and get in there, in case it's a bacterial thing. And like, thank goodness I didn't put bleach in my bathtub and get in while my whole body was so raw, because I'm pretty sure that bleach damages your DNA. So I was just approached with crazier and crazier and crazier things. And like, they were giving me more prednisone. So I was taking steroids internally. And then like for a couple days, it would get a little bit better. And then, oh my God, the swelling would get so bad on my whole body. And you feel like you're like the Michelin man. And it just is terrible. And then I remember my mother, like I'm 27. My mother, when I'm in town, she takes me to her doctor. And he sits me down, and like, if anybody knows if it's possible for me to file a lawsuit at this point years later, please let me know, okay? If anybody knows about that type of stuff, because he sat me down, and without even asking me and without even telling me what it was, he came over just from seeing me and injected steroids into my body, into my arm. He did not have my consent. And he did this. And that was the worst thing that he could have done for me, because steroids were the last thing that my body needed. Do you know what I mean? Steroids were the problem. So anyways, so long story short, crazy situations, crazy, stupid situations that were all completely avoidable. I should not have had to live through any of that. And these problems consumed my whole teenage years, my entire 20s, and the last 2.5 years, every single day of my life, and I share this again from a place of like, for people to see how doing something really simple that is suggested by a medical practitioner, and it can sometimes screw us up in ways that is going to cost us years of our life. It cost me ability to make money in many ways. It took away my energy, put me into adrenal fatigue, put me into a place where all I was doing was going to doctors to ask for questions and to have somebody help me, and nobody could help me. Like the resources that this cost me and all of the things that I could not participate in my life, like the energy loss, the sleep loss, the chronic desperation for years straight, like this situation messed me up on so many levels and robbed me of so much of my life. And please don't hear me that I'm complaining, because again, this fuels me now at this point. I am at peace with this situation. I'm at peace with this situation because it's helped me so much. Well, okay, now the emotions move through, but it's helped me so much. And now I see so many of you in such bad situations because you've listened to what they've said, also because we are taught to trust them, but they don't always know what they're doing. They don't always know exactly what they're doing. It doesn't mean that they're all bad. Doesn't mean that they have bad intentions. Doesn't mean that they're evil. Not all like that. A lot of it is just like our family doctors, but they're not as well versed on things as they should be, like just flat out, because that's not them doing their due diligence or their Hippocratic oath, and it's not freaking okay. As a practitioner myself, it's like there's liabilities. There's certain things that are not appropriate for me to say or suggest, or, and before anybody works with me, like I need to look at contraindications. I need to make sure that there's nothing that I'm going to say or do that might actually work against this person unintentionally. You know what I mean? So seeing how many people are suffering, it gave me finally the motivation to finally have this stupid conversation. And it's not a stupid conversation, just like I really don't like talking about this. But again, like I said, I feel like it's necessary. And I want y'all to understand how significantly my life has been impacted, and how much these small decisions, void of informed consent though, have drastically impacted my life. Because again, I know now I'm just talking in circles, but I see this happening to other people because of the global environment that we're in, because nobody's talking about informed consent, because nobody anymore is on the page of my body, my choice. What the frick happened to all of that, guys? Our bodies, our choice, period, right? And we work off of emotion now, and we don't work off of science. Like even, a lot of people saying like, I'm following the science. And I'm even saying this for some of our listeners. Okay, guys. And I love you all, but we're not following the science. Some people are following what scientists and doctors who are willing to shout one certain narrative, and they're going to get paid for it. We're following what these people are ill-advising us. People that do not have good intentions, who are on power trips, are telling us what to do when it's not actually science, Like there are not longitudinal studies on what's happening right now. There is not informed consent. Are y'all being told before you get the jabby jab that you might die from it, that you might get Guillain-Barré syndrome, that you might get Bell's palsy, that you might actually have chronic permanent heart inflammation, that you might be covered in skin rashes and hives, that you might have an aneurysm, a stroke, blood clotting issues, a heart attack. Like, right? People aren't being told this. And when I put that dang cream on my skin again and again, I was only ever told your skin might get thin one day. I was not told that it's going to completely annihilate my skin. It's going to take my skin years to repair. Like the skin organ just doesn't even function properly anymore. And it's like your biggest organ, like I literally have an organ disability because of these dang doctors not doing their due diligence. Like that's how simple it is. That is how simple it is. Due diligence, yeah, okay, get off of my soapbox. But it's just so important. This is just such an important conversation, like from somebody that's been injured by pharmaceuticals repeatedly, and that it's years to work your way out of. I feel like it's absolutely insane that folks are making choices right now without the evidence to prove safety and efficacy, right? Like a lot of people are being very, very misguided right now. But when we're surrounded by fear, we're not really good critical thinkers. We're not really, really good discerners. And we're not always looking at like, okay, well, what might happen to me if I do choose to do this? right? And that's an important conversation. And so like, if you're somebody that if you've received one dose, you know, before you receive your second dose, just really check in with yourself and, you know, be aware of what's happening to other people, because could something happen to you? Are you okay with that if it does? Are you not okay with it if it does? So really, like, what risk is worth taking for you, right? Understanding that we definitely have at least 56,000 folks no longer alive just in America because they put that needle in their arm. 56,000 people. Those folks probably thought that that needle in their arm was going to save their life, you know, or prevent them getting sick. But instead, those people aren't here anymore at all. They're just gone. And they're gone probably a lot sooner than they were supposed to be gone, you know? So just understanding that it's like when we take any form of pharmaceutical, we're making a really big choice. We're making a really, really big choice that we aren't always prepared for what that choice is going to bring in the form of consequences, you know? And I've worked with people's bodies for so many years now. And really what I see all the time is like we take the you know, the antidepressants for this, or we take the medication that is just for stomach acid or like acid reflux, or we take the medication that's the allergy medications, and we take these little medications and we're like, oh, not a big problem, I'm just going to take these. But these medications that are supposed to do, you know, certain things to the body, which when we take them we want those certain things to happen, medications also do other things that we're not always aware of and not always told about it, because it's like they influence the whole body. Not, you know, when you take an Advil, it's not just helping your headache, it's also taxing your kidneys and helping to deplete the integrity of your digestive system, you know? So it's like we take this thing for this. It's like, well, we take the Benadryl because, you know, we're working with our allergies, but at the same time, we don't recognize that when we're taking a bunch of Benadryl, or is it called like Zyrtec, like those antihistamines, long-term use, it creates early onset dementia. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we just got to think about, it's like, if I'm doing this or doing it often, it might screw me up in ways that I'm currently not aware of, and in ways that I might not be able to come back from, you know? And also in ways of, if something screws me up, nobody is liable for it but me. So it's putting me out of work. It's taking money out of my pocket. And then, you know, you get into these circumstances, but then you're physically depleted or you've been injured in some way by a pharmaceutical. And then at that place, do you have the energy and the mental capacity and the focus and the awareness, and I said energy, but do you have even the finances to then go ahead and figure out how to reverse the situation that you're in? You know, it's like sometimes we just take a pharmaceutical for this or that, and then suddenly we're on a trajectory that is not what we planned, and it is not okay. And I see this happen all the friggin' time with people that are on birth control, and then what that does to our cycles, and then how that goes on and on and on and does crazy things, to people that are taking the heartburn medicine, like I just said, you know, and not eating well. And it's like sooner or later, they're going to tell us that we need to get our gallbladder removed. And really, we still have a window of time to actually cleanse and heal our gallbladder so that we can regain our functioning. But no, we just go through the route of, they said we should get it out, so we're going to get it out. And then, you know, and this might happen to people in their 20s or 30s now, getting your gallbladder removed. And it's like your digestion forevermore is fucked. You are affected for the rest of your life because you're not going to be producing proper stomach acid. Your whole digestive process is going to be screwed up forevermore. And that means how you're digesting things, how you're absorbing things, how you're assimilating things, and how you're also able to evacuate things, you know, and that your whole gut then is affected, which is your whole immune system, which is even your serotonin and your dopamine and your mental emotional balances. Like, I just really, 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 really want you to see that everything is connected. And when we make certain choices, there's a cascading effect that we can't always stop. And really, it comes down to our individual choices. And a lot of us do not educate ourselves and do not inform ourselves because we put that on somebody else. Whoever's wearing the white lab coat, whoever the doctor is, whoever the nurse is, whatever, we just assume that they're going to do what is right and what is best. But you got to remember that this is all big business. It is all big business. Cancer is big business. Jabby jabs, it is all big business. It is not about our health whatsoever. If it was about our health, then a doctor, when they would see me going through all these chronic rashes, a doctor would say, number one, Ivy, how are you pooping? What are you eating? What are you putting on your skin? What is your laundry detergent? Those should be those 4 questions should be of the first 6 questions that a doctor asks you, for somebody to see what I was going through. And yeah, it's just like I keep saying, it's so backwards. It's so backwards. And even with this current situation with the jabby jab, also I keep recognizing that this whole time through, nobody is talking about contraindications. Do you guys know what a contraindication is? It means basically okay, if you've got this going on, we actually can't do this for you and can't give you this, So for instance, colon hydrotherapy. If you have a bleeding hemorrhoid right now, that's a contraindication for therapy. So if I gave you a colonic and you have a bleeding hemorrhoid, we don't want you evacuating and detoxing a whole bunch out of your butt while you've got an open blood vessel. Doesn't it make a lot more sense to wait until the hemorrhoid is more healed and then we gently, gracefully, safely proceed, as is appropriate, right? That's a contraindication. So in this situation with the jabby jab, it's considering my chronic skin inflammation and the way that my body reacts to pharmaceuticals, I have a contraindication for the jabby jab. If you have any skin problems like me, you have a contraindication for it. If you have any blood clotting issues or cardiovascular issues, you have a contraindication and should not be getting the jabby jab. If you've got allergies to certain things, you have a contraindication and you are not a good candidate to receive the jabby jab. And even children, because this thing barely affects them and this thing doesn't kill them. By the thing, I mean the virus thing, right? That it's children, it's not appropriate for children to get the jabby jab, especially because there aren't studies. And for anybody that's oh no, there's studies. Guys, longitudinal studies. That means that there have been studies done that show what happens if that child or that person has a jabby jab, and it shows what happens in the human's body after a couple months, after 1 year, after 5 years, after 10 years, after 20 years. What happens when that jabbed person gets pregnant one day? And then what happens to that jabbed person's offspring? How do they develop? So you have to understand, anybody that says that they're oh, I'm following the science. It's unless you actually understand the necessity of a longitudinal study and what that means, if you don't understand that concept, you're not following the science, and I'm sorry, you don't know what you're talking about. And again, I say this with love and so much respect for you. I say this because is there anybody else saying this? No. Well, I mean, there are some, and those are amazing people, but when I'm saying this with love and the deepest respect for you, because we need to think properly. All of this is happening because most adults are not capable of thinking properly anymore and discerning. I don't want to go too hard on this. I don't want to go too hard on this. I know that you can feel my opinions, but first and foremost, these opinions are from a professional standpoint because I watch people's bodies. I've watched people's bodies heal. I watch people's bodies get sick. Healing bodies is very, very easy. Everything is all in our choice. And if we're just injecting a concoction of who knows what that is still completely experimental into our bodies, it's you are actively making a choice to basically play Russian roulette with yourself. And from a person that lived through chronic, terrible nightmare of a life, in the form of what's happened in my body in many ways, it's you're playing with fire, some of us, right? And why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Because natural immunity is where it's at. If you've got COVID or the flu, it's you got natural immunity. You're good to go forever. So you are not also a good candidate for the jabby jab if you've already got it, period. Okay, guys, I feel like I'm just going off on this. I love you all so much. I hope that I'm saying the things that people need to hear. And I hope that you can feel that I'm saying this from a place of love and deep, deep concern and, desire for, if anybody's still on the fence about some of these things, or even if we're not talking about the jabby jab and we're talking about the heartburn medication or the allergy meds or the steroids or whatever we're talking about. Remember that big pharma, there's no liability. There's intentionally no liability. So if you or I make a choice and we consent to something without first demanding that we are informed, demanding that we are fully informed and that we are in the right mind to be competent and comprehend of what we are being informed of. We need to be in that place to make our decisions. Do not let anybody coerce you or pressure you into any decision in any direction, because the only one that's going to have to figure it out if you are harmed is you and also your family, the people that love you and support you. It's like you're not only fucking up your life possibly, but also theirs. And I'm sorry that I swore. Just again, this conversation absolutely exhausts me. Because I've had this conversation in my mind with you like 10,000 times already. And I'm always like, I don't want to do that episode. I don't even want to do it. I don't even know if I talked about all the things that I wanted to, I don't even know if I did, but it's enough. And so anyways, long story short with my situation, I never even finished telling you. Okay. So when I was 27, right, I had those surgeries scheduled and I was like, nah, not doing it. I ran away to Vancouver Island. I lived on a beach underneath a cedar tree, underneath an uprooted cedar tree. Oh my God, it was so amazing. And I lived there for about 3 weeks just on the earth, literally sleeping on like the sand, but then cedar branches because they were so soft, and my body started healing. I got into nature. I got into the sacred waters. I ate so simply, and I started healing and healing and healing and healing and healing and healing. And every week I was more better and I was less sick. And I healed and I healed and I healed. And I thought it was a miracle. It was a miracle. But also I thought I was healing lymphoma at that time, right? And then so if we just look back, then I had like 2 years, perfect skin, not a single rash, regardless of what I ate, perfect skin, not a single rash for the first time in my life that I could remember. And then like 2.5 years ago, I was getting some lymphatic drainage, right? Thinking that I still had like steroids and stuff in my armpits or in my lymph nodes. And then I started getting a little bit of a rash on my wrist. And I also changed the gloves, the nitrile gloves that I was using as a colon hydrotherapist. And I started getting a little bit of a rash. And I did not know about topical steroids at this time, right? Because I still thought that I healed cancer. But so I bought some of the topical steroid from Walmart, just the over-the-counter shit, like $4 and change. And I put it on my wrist. And then within a matter of days, I started noticing something crazy was happening. And then it started getting onto my face and then my neck. And then before I know it, I was just beside myself because I thought that whatever my mystery disease that I'd been in for so many years before, I thought it was back, and it was back. And that's when, after searching on Instagram, I came across somebody that looked like me with the same rashes and the same like wrinkly eyes. Oh, and the other thing with this is that you look very, very old when you're going through this because your skin gets so crepey and thin. Like, so I feel like I've looked like a senior for a very, very long time. And it's kind of body dysmorphic wise. It's also a messed up thing. But yeah, so I started seeing on Instagram that holy shit, topical steroids are doing this to people. Oh my God. And then hearing and learning how long it takes to get out of it, I was like, no way. Am I entering a couple years worth of hell again? Because I had PTSD, hardcore, regarding my skin from what I had been through. Because again, guys, I thought that I was dying. Right? All the doctors, the specialists, they had no solutions for me. They only had surgeries and drugs. I thought I was dying. So yeah, it was just such an insane situation to then recognize like, oh my God, I'm in this again. Oh my God, I'm in this again. Oh my God, because I put a $4 cream on my skin. Oh my God, I am in this again. I'm in America. I'm not with my family. I have to work. Like, how is this not going to be the end of me, And then like two and a half years later, I'm finally in front of a camera and showing my face more and healing through it, and like I said, I'm on my period right now. So my face is rashy. My arms are a bit rashy. My neck is a bit rashy, but it's like, whatever, I'm fine with it. I'm rolling with it so strongly these days and I'm getting better and better and I'm okay with it. But I'll tell you, because I know a lot of you have probably tried to get a hold of me in the last couple of years, and I've been so unavailable. And you know that I'm an introvert, but I haven't shared with you guys this part of I've been in a chronically skin organ disabled situation, and it's been a freakish type of misery. But I'm almost out of it, which is really, really amazing. But it's been an extremely, extremely dark last 2.5 years. And I feel really emotional to share that with you guys. I actually feel like some guilt and some shame, because I made that choice to put this cream on my skin because I made that choice. I paid the $4. I made that choice. I put it on my skin. So I put myself into this again. and the ways that like I haven't shown up for other people because of it, the ways that it's impacted my marriage and my life and my business. It's like I feel really shitty about all of that because it was my choice, you know? So if you can feel my emotions right now and my thinking patterns over this, to really look at like what are the things that you're doing that is like a band-aid for, you know, for whatever in your life. Like what are you doing to band-aid certain symptoms? And the things that you're doing to band-aid, might these things actually put you in a far worse situation? You know, or do you have a health situation that you are continuing, and is it affecting the people around you with how you show up, you know? Like, yeah, this conversation for me is really far-reaching, because when we do things like this to ourselves unknowingly, because generally unknowingly, because we don't have informed consent, it's like this really can change the course of our lives, and it really changed the course of my life. But I'm on the other side of it now, and I know how to heal bodies, and guys, I know how to walk through the dark with my head held high. I know how to get through the dark. I know how to get through the dark multiple times, again and again and again and again and again. You know? And so if you're in the dark with your body, with your mind, with anything, it's like, my friend, we're going to walk through the dark. We're going to walk through it. We're going to walk through it. We're going to walk through it. And I love you, and we're going to get through it. And even if it takes years, we're going to get through it. Even if you've been in it for years, we're going to get through it. Okay? And I love you. And I'm burning the eucalyptus to help integrate these emotions and clear this energy for myself and my home and for you as well. So I hope that this conversation has done something good for you, or just let you a little bit more into my world and my heart and my own journey of healing. Yeah. And also, that being said, I'm officially open for business again, guys. I'm officially holding space for people again. I've walked through that doorway again, because I have physically healed enough to be a space holder and an anchor again. So if you are in the dark, if you are feeling the dark and the imbalance, body, mind, spirit, soul, all of it, I work with people on all levels, because it's all multidimensional. It is all encompassing. You know, if we're going to work on the emotional stuff and the relationship stuff and the soul stuff and the communication stuff, it's like, it's also important that we work on the health stuff. And if we're going to work on the health stuff, it's also important that we work on the emotional stuff and the boundary stuff and the deep wound stuff. You know, like everything is all so together. So, and we end up having soul contracts with people. So if something inside of you pulls you to be in my energy to help walk you through your darkness, my dearest soul friend, I'm calling in those of you with soul contracts with me. You know, because there's certain ones of us that we're meant to be together for certain amounts of time, because our souls have codings for each other and gifts for each other, and we're in the transformation right now. You know, it's like we're walking each other into our next station of identity and into our next world. And like I said, my favorite thing is navigating the dark. So I help people with the health. I help with behavioral addictions. I help with communications. I help with relationships. One of my very, very favorite things, I'll tell you, my three favorite people to work with are people with chronic health problems where they've been to all of the doctors, all the practitioners. Nobody's making it any better. Nobody has the right answers. You're my favorite person to work with. Also, my favorite person to work with is men, the brothers who are healing through or wanting to heal through behavioral addictions, lust addictions, ego addictions, narcissistic addictions, porn addictions, emotional challenges of being seen and being felt, of showing up in your masculinity as a king. You are also my very favorite person to work with, and I'm calling you in. Thirdly, my favorite people to work with, and there's no hierarchy in this, but my favorite people to work with are couples. Couples that have the communication challenges, the relationship challenges, the trust challenges, all the problems, the hurts, the pains. How do we rebuild from here? You guys are also my favorite people to work with. So if any of you are listening, hit me up. Email me at ivy@awaken, or sorry, let me tell you the right email address, ivy@inspiredsovereignty.com. And within about the next well, very soon I'm going to have up my website complete, and you can find me there. You can book my services there. We can have a call together, see if we are the right soul contract fit for one another. Okay. But anyways, guys, I gotta go. I gotta go. I got a thing I have to go and do outside of the house. Isn't that exciting for me? Oh, so everybody, I love you so much. Thank you so much for being in this episode. Thank you for holding space. I hope that I shared what was important, like truly important for you to hear in this episode. I feel like I got off my chest and shoulders, and I got off my skin what I needed to speak out and to release. So thank you for holding me, and I'm here to hold you back. And I freaking love you all. And remember, keep fighting the good fight. Keep loving all the good love. Keep yourself hydrated. Be kind to yourself and be kind to one another. And I love you so much. And I'm going to see you in the next episode, my dear, dear friend.